Good morning. It's good to see everybody. For the most part, I can see everybody. I'm going to try to run this meeting remote today. We're in Ocean City. We came down here to receive our new deck furniture about 30 minutes ago. Or maybe an hour ago now. They called and said they couldn't deliver our deck furniture today. So we're here anyway. If you see the picture in the background, that's a previous picture, but it looks about the same outside today. So we're okay. So why don't we get started? Barb, I can't see you, but do you have some words of inspiration for us today?
Yeah, I do. This is a little bit different from our normal words of inspiration, but if your house has been anything like mine, it's never without this little book, the Reader's Digest. In fact, my dad used to have all the Reader's Digest books. They're condensed versions of their books. But this past February was 100 years of Reader's Digest. So there are little articles all throughout, but this one struck a chord with me. And as I read it, you'll find out why. This is called Return of a Runaway Child by Gary Turbach, and this was from November of 1982. Georgia teenager Tammy Hendley recognizes one of the missing children in a July 1982 Reader's Digest article, which was taken from an article named Missing 100,000 Children a Year from the Kiwanis magazine. She was recognized as Tammy Ann Pinkerman, a nurse's aide who worked alongside her mother. The story and Hendley's eagle eyes would soon reunite Pinkerman, whose real name was Marion Wavy Batson, with her family, who had spent 2.5 years looking for her. And that was all done because of an article in the Kiwanis magazine.
Thank you, Barb. I see we have a guest today. Floyd, would you like to introduce your guest?
Sure. This is my friend Al Bapp. He's local and a former, or I should say, a past Kiwanian with the Palmerton Club, and a colleague in the banking industry. And I think I heard grandfather from 7 months ago.
Yes, 3 times over.
You'll also remember those that are Easton people, Easton Buick. And Arlo, what were you doing in Easton Buick?
Well, Arlo is my father.
Okay.
He's 93 and lives just across the way there on Zooksville Road where I grew up. And he and my mom are doing fine. They're both 93 years old. The usual health problems, but I talk to them most days. And Floyd and I met by accident. Literally by accident. I had a flat tire and he rolled up behind me and asked if he could help. And I was on the way to a doctor's appointment and he ended up giving me a lift. And we've been friends ever since. And when he returns to Georgia, we'll still be friends.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess at this point in time, Terry, would you like to introduce our speaker? We'll do that first and then have a business meeting afterwards.
Oh, thanks. Okay. Well, actually, Amy's going to introduce herself. As I said before, when I bring guests or someone who's going to join us, it's better for them to introduce themselves. Then I don't skip anything. I don't get embarrassed, and neither do they. So, but Amy is here today to fill us in and give her updates and whatever else she's going to share about the West Ward. Okay.
Thanks, Terry.
Almost.
Terry asked me if I'd ever presented to Kiwanis before, and I said, I think so, but now I know this as the singing group. I was at the Pomfret Club. Back in my Main Street days.
Yeah.
So, you can go ahead.
All right, I'll get it set up.
The first slide, and I'll give you a little nod as we move through. So thank you all for having me here today. My name is Amy Boccadoro. I am a born and raised Easton resident here. I grew up in Forks Township. My dad is originally from Easton, and he grew up there. So the name is quite familiar as I've traveled through many roles here in Easton. So it's nice to make connections with people along the way that knew my parents, or my father knew family, my grandparents, sometimes even great-grandparent stories. So it's very nice. So I will give you a little professional history. Like I said, born and raised here in Easton, went through Easton High School, went out to Penn State and did studies out there. I have oddly enough, a degree in photography and graphic design. When I moved back to Easton in 2006, I got involved with the Easton Main Street program. I started volunteering with them kind of right out of the gate. They were also fairly new in downtown Easton as a revitalization program. Fast forward about 7 years later, and the assistant manager job opened up with Main Street. So it was a great transition for me. I went from loving volunteering to getting paid to love what I do. So I moved into the Main Street role there. I worked with Kim Kometz, who I think many of you know, and I was with Main Street for a little over 5 years. Downtown, as you know, is thriving and doing really well. So it was time that we started looking beyond the downtown and we started looking to West Ward. And that's where my dad grew up. It was a place near and dear to my heart as a kid. It's where my grandparents lived. It's where I walked to my grandparents' house after going to middle school and coming to that house afterwards. And I loved an urban feel. And I was so jealous of corner markets as a kid. I was like, you mean you can go get candy just around the corner at any point in time? So I bought a house in West Ward in 2010. So I've been living there since, and I love being there. So it was a great transition to start the West Ward Community Initiative. I will also mention that our overarching 501c3 is called the Greater Easton Development Partnership. We oversee a number of programs in Easton: Easton Main Street Initiative, the Easton Ambassadors, Easton Farmers Market, PA Bacon Fest is our largest fundraiser of the year, Easton Garden Works, a number of events in downtown. We work very closely with the city as well on many of these things. So that's GEDP as a whole. So before I get too deep into West Ward, I usually start, people ask me what I do, and then halfway through the conversation, they go, wait, what's West Ward? Where's West Ward? So we'll start off with that. So West Ward is considered the area between 6th Street and 15th Street. The name actually dates back to the mid-1800s when that area of Easton was completely undeveloped. The cemetery was there, but not much else. So back to 1854, I believe, is when they said from the center of Juliana Street, which is now 5th Street, all the way west to essentially Easton boundary, and from the Lehigh River all the way over to the Bushkill Creek, that was to be known as West Ward. So the name was not very common, I don't believe, until more recently, but that's where the name comes from. It is quite dated. So we consider it more from 6th Street to 15th Street because of the downtown Easton boundary was moved to 6th Street. So we look between 6th to 15th and essentially from Butler or Elm Street all the way over to Bushkill Creek as well. We are roughly 1 square mile. We have well over 10,000 residents, which is about 40% of Easton as a city's population lives in that neighborhood. You would be familiar with the courthouse being there. You would be familiar with Cottingham Stadium being there. The cemetery, both cemeteries are there. True. Yes, they took that fence down. Finally. And as Terry and I were talking, well over 30 restaurants are in the West Ward, including Easton Baking, which has reopened. So please come. Yes, quite delicious. So as we started this process, Bill, you can advance whenever you have a chance there. So back in 2018 and 2019, we worked on a neighborhood plan. We did a lot of community outreach. We worked with a consultant out of Chicago to look at the neighborhood, ask people what do you want to see here? What would help improve the neighborhood? What are concerns you have? What are things that we can do to make this place better? And we came out with the neighborhood plan. And this was done in conjunction with the city of Easton. And it named a lot of partners too. So it wasn't just GEDP, here's the list of things you can do. It's also what can the city do? What can Lafayette College do? What can other partners do as a whole? From there, we were able to get 4 financial entities on board. They signed on for a 6-year commitment at $200,000 a year for my program, and we were up and running come late 2019. So what has happened in between mid 2019 through now is, as you all know, a little crazy. And the plan has still been there, but things have changed, obviously, and we've been moving through that. Bill, you can go ahead and move forward.
Yeah, the slides are not showing on Zoom, but they can hear you.
Okay.
Because your program is set up in a different PowerPoint presentation.
I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's okay. This is kind of like what you would be doing onto the screen, because
Okay.
yeah.
So one of the things that we started with in 2019, and probably my favorite event out of the year, is National Night Out. It was probably one of the biggest opportunities to kind of kick off this program. It brought together so many partners that are here in the city, and it was our first chance to work together. So it's near and dear to my heart. We held it in 2019. Obviously, we could not hold it in 2020, but we brought it back last year. We worked with the Easton Police Department, the YMCA, the City of Easton, Easton Area Community Center, and a host of others to bring this great opportunity into the city. And West Ward, we hear time and time again, people want a gathering space. They want to bring people together. They want block parties. They want activities. They want things for kids to do. And this is our great opportunity to do so. We've held a kick, we had Lieutenant Bonham from the Easton Police Department, Trooper Seipel from the Pennsylvania State Police join us, cooking out, and just a great opportunity to bring people together. And that is really what we're striving for with this program, is a way to bring the entire community together. A gathering space has been a bit of a challenge. We don't have a downtown, we don't have a center square like downtown, but we have found North 12th Street between Paxinosa and Cottingham Stadium to be that special place. It's, as you know, Cottingham is an amazing stadium and home, and everybody feels such a great space there. And Paxinosa, being a community school, has just been a great draw in our community. So we're really excited to continue with 12th Street as our gathering space here in Easton. And you'll see some of that as we start to move through here. Go ahead, Bill. Another piece we're working on is making West Ward clean and safe. We have the Easton Ambassador Program that has been up in the West Ward since 2017. They are a clean, safe, and hospitality team. They do cleanup around downtown. You've probably seen them down there in the red shirts. And they started to expand into West Ward. They also do hospitality, so just talking to people, sharing information. Hey, how you doing? Great day. What's new with you? And they're also a bit of a safety team. They're not armed, but they are radioed into police. So if something is happening, they can get police there quickly. They're also known to, they see something that doesn't seem right, they can move on over with their dustpan and broom, and most likely those folks are going to move on because it's not of interest to be seen. So they've been a great asset to downtown, and we're really fortunate now to have them in West Ward. As of a couple weeks ago, they have actually changed their territory to be on Northampton Street from 6th to 13th Street. So we're very excited about that. We see that as a gateway into the city and a great opportunity for the neighborhood. And as we're starting to see more businesses on Northampton Street, we want it to be a place where people are coming to, whether they're walking or parking a couple blocks away to get to their destination. So we're very excited about that.
I've got an idea. I'm going to get you out of this. And let me stop screen sharing for a moment and shut down the PowerPoint and just show your pictures.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's go back to
I
it.
do have a PDF in there, Bill, if that's helpful.
Oh, the PDF will show too. That's
Okay.
not a problem. Let me screen share again. I'll go back just to desktop. And I will screen share your picture.
While we're waiting, Amy, is the silk part of that?
We don't consider it part of West Ford because of the creek. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, with Silk is kind of in a little bit of like a no man's land, you know, is it downtown, is it College Hill? You know, the topography in Easton makes things sometimes a bit of a challenge. Yeah. So we also started something called Lights On. This is a great opportunity for people to keep their front porch lights on or their side or back light that faces a street or an alleyway. So we were giving people, still are, a light sensor and a free LED bulb. And that light goes on at dusk and turns back off at dawn. And we've been extremely successful about it. People love it because you don't have to think about it. It's on, it's done, you can let it go. And it's really been a great asset to the neighborhood. We're excited to kick it off again, obviously, without being able to be out in the community with the pandemic. We're excited to get back out and have those up and running again. Another piece we're doing is the West Ward Cleanup Day, which is at the end of April this year. We're working to make that a bigger effort this year and getting a lot more of our churches and community partners involved and doing some more cleanup around the neighborhood. We're going to be pushing more of a clean effort here in the neighborhood and just trying to have some community pride that builds back with West Ward. Bill, go ahead.
Is this the next one?
Yes, sir. Thank you. One of the pieces that we started right out of the gate back in 2019 is a great partnership we have with the YMCA. We heard over and over that people missed the park program that used to exist in some of the neighborhood parks where somebody would show up, a counselor of some sort, have a box of toys, throw it open and play with the kids all day. So we worked with YMCA to bring something like that back to the West Ward. It's been very successful over the last 3 years, even during the pandemic. We are currently at Vanderveer Park, which is behind Cottingham Stadium, and then also up at Dutchtown Park, which is along Walnut Avenue. Dutchtown is really interesting because they have about 30 or so kids that have participated over the length of the program. About 8 of them show up regularly. They always bring their parents. So parents participate with the kids. So I'll give you an example. They did a ice cream making event last summer where there's a big hill at Dutchtown. So they said, all right, we can roll those things down and make ice cream. They were kind of optimistic about how quickly they would get ice cream, but parents were out there rolling those cans down and they made some ice cream. So it's been a really great family building and community building there at Dutchtown because a lot of folks didn't know one another and it was a great opportunity to bring everybody together. Vanderveer is just as amazing as it's always been. They have probably about 68 or so kids over the entire summer that have participated. About 17 of them showed up regularly. And these kids would not leave. Like they were there to play and they just had a great day. So we're so thankful for the YMCA to be able to bring these park programs back to the neighborhood. Another piece that's really important here is that they're able to serve those kids lunches and snacks. So over the course of the summer, those kids, about 1,500 meals were fed to kids over the entire duration of the summer. And that's been a big piece of what we're trying to also accomplish here in the neighborhood. Go ahead, Bill. So kids are really important to us as well. We heard it time and time again with our neighborhood plan. Several years ago, we were able to purchase a building in West Ward on Spruce Street, and that will soon be home to Community Bike Works. They currently have a program two programs in Allentown. They have been in existence for about just over 25 years, and they're going to be bringing a program to Easton. They've been right now doing some mobile programming at Paxinosa and March and a couple in the middle school. So they've been working while we're waiting to get this building ready for them. but we just found out, I believe the money has come through from the federal government. Community Bike Works got a $1.4 million grant through Susan Wild's office that will help renovate this building and also expand programming for them. So we're really excited to have them in West Ward. They do something called Build a Bike, which allows kids to build an entire bike. They learn all the mechanics of it. It also teaches them to ride, and there's a mentorship piece to it as well. And they encourage kids to stay and come back and hang out. There's homework help. There's other things that they can do in the evenings. So this will be, in a way, a clubhouse for them. We're really excited to have that. That's at 921 Spruce Street. So look for that in the coming. That bottom picture is a rendering, so hopefully it should look like that soon. The other thing we worked on through the pandemic with the city of Easton was a master plan for our pocket parks. We have 7 parks in West Ward. 5 of them are, well, 6 of them are small. And 5 of them could definitely use some revitalization. And then there were 2 over on the south side that were looked up at as well. We did a lot of community outreach and asked people, what do you want to see? Like, how do you want these spaces used? What makes sense for them? And we got a great amount of feedback on that as well. So we're looking to start to implement some of those things alongside the city in the coming years. The city just did some demolition over at Centennial. There were some blighted properties there, so they tore those down at the end of last year to help make that park larger. Right now, we are sorely lacking green space in the West Ward. So anywhere that we can make more of it is really helpful, and it gives kids a chance to play around, and adults too, because we'd like to sit and hang out as well. Go ahead, thank you. So this is one of the other, what we hope to be the next largest green space in West Ward. This is Vanderveer Park. This is the space behind Cottingham Stadium. And we have been working diligently with both the school district, because this is school district property, and the city of Easton to make this a really showcase space in the West Ward. Right now, you see there's a smaller playground area in the top right. There are 2 basketball courts there to the left. Those would be opposite of Paxanosa Elementary School, or maybe what you know as Easton High School or Easton Middle School if you're of my generation. And then in the middle is a lot of parking. Obviously needed because of the stadium there, and what we've last proposed to the school district as of last week was shifting the parking a little bit to the right, but also making that a dual space. So when there isn't sports being had there, there are half basketball courts there. There's the ability to play softball. There's the ability to play soccer, or a multitude of other games. And then on the left, having a really great open green space too, and with a walking track. Paxanosa Elementary sees this as a great asset to the school. Thank you. And they are really looking forward to being able to have more class outside and take kids out beyond their backyard, their recess area. And this would provide that, and also give the community a really amazing green space. And we really see it right now as an open space, and it may evolve in the future, but that's what we're hoping will come to fruition sooner rather than later. So stay tuned for that one, but those are hopefully our plans with working with the school district and the city. Go ahead. So the other really big piece that we're working on right now is at the end of 2019, we received a grant from HUD, from Housing and Urban Development. And it is looking at the 3 public housing sites in the West Ward. There is one along Northampton Street at Union. There is one up off of Butler, which is considered Elm Street back in there, and the Bushkill House, which is a high rise around 7th and Locust Street area there as well. All total, there's about 150 housing units in there, give or take. And what this new program from HUD is looking at is revitalizing these places. Many of them, these 3 locations were built in the late 60s, very early 70s. And as you know, with government housing, in a lot of ways, they've not been touched since. So this would be a way to reimagine those spaces and also bring in mixed income housing. As we know, affordable housing is a big concern. And how do we start to make these mixed income spaces as well and fit better into the street landscape? The 60s were not great for our urban cores, and a lot of things were pulled out into a very suburban model. So this gives us the opportunity to bring back commercial space along Northampton Street, along Butler Street, and also make these, you know, more up-to-date and modern spaces, and also do that mixed income piece. What's also really wonderful about this is that it's not just about housing. It also looks at what our neighborhood needs and what our needs for the community as a whole. So things like the Vanderveer Park, things like healthcare access, what are other educational pieces, whether it's for kids or for job training, how can they also be rolled into this plan as well? So this is a 2-year process. The grant from HUD, and Bill, you can go ahead and change the next slide. The grant from HUD was $450,000. This is a 2-year planning process. So we are just listening right now and putting together an overall plan. Of that $450,000, we have $150,000 earmarked for what they call an early action plan. And we hope to bring that to Vanderveer Park to make that a reality, at least the first phase of it this year. So we've spent a lot of time doing community feedback. What Adam is rolling up there on the left-hand side is a large mind map. It was a mural done during last year's National Night Out where we captured feedback from the community about what they'd like to see across a wide variety of topics for the neighborhood. We've also done direct outreach to all the housing sites. We've installed little free libraries that are actually acting as engagement stations and sharing information as well at those community sites. And then those bottom 2 photos, they're not super easy to read, but we're starting to think about what those sites reimagined can look like and how they can be better use of space as well. For those of you who know about the Southside project, the Neston Heights project, this is very similar to that as well. So we're really excited about that. Our plan will be completed at the end of this year. And then we have to apply for what's called an implementation grant in next year, which would, the max award is $50 million, just recently raised. We hope to get somewhere between 30 to 40 million. Hopefully it is very competitive, but I'll stay positive about this, that we could actually bring this to fruition in the coming years. So it's a big piece, but we're really excited about it and feel very, very good about it for the neighborhood and the other pieces that can happen. Go ahead, Bill. Thank you. Another thing, this harkens back to the pandemic, but there was a lot of concern in the neighborhood, obviously, about food. We have a wide variety of incomes that are in West Ward. If you think that this is more of a low-income neighborhood, it's not. It really spans all economic levels here, and also all races as well. So one of the things that was concerning to us was the access to food. A lot of people, they got laid off in those very early days of the pandemic. Also, our businesses, specifically our restaurants, struggled as well, as you know. So one of the initial things that we did in partnership with the YMCA and the Easton Area Community Center was bring meals into the community. We purchased them from our local restaurants here in the West Ward, and we gave them out to folks. If you're a kid, there's money for you. If you're a senior, there's money for you. But if you're between 18 and 65, not really. So that was our target demographic. We also had meals for kids through some state programming that we were able to get out. And it brought out our seniors as well. And a lot of them live alone. So this was a really great opportunity for them to see folks, again, grab a meal. And so it was a really good point for them to connect with their friends as well and not feel so isolated. So as this went along, this kind of snowballed into the next aspect was Jason Hoy, who owned Tucker Silk Mill over at the Silk Mill, said, you know, I've been doing some fundraising to bring fresh produce and other good food to some of our food banks. Can you use it in the West Ward? And so we started partnering with him in early 2021 to bring fresh bags of produce to the West Ward. Specifically, we were giving them out through Paxinosa. The food program at Paxinosa had been giving out meals, not just to kids, but to anybody in the community that was of need during COVID. And so we tagged onto that program and we were giving out weekly bags of produce. And we didn't know how it was going to go over. So we started with 10 bags and eventually went to 15 and 20 and 25. And now we're at a consistent 35 bags a week. We're still doing that. And, you know, making sure that people have fresh produce in the neighborhood, because that is a piece that's hard to get in our community. Pantries provide a lot of staples, a lot of shelf-stable things, but refrigeration is a big problem. And as you know, produce needs a good amount of storage. So this was a great opportunity to do so. And Jason did this through his business, but really it came through donations of his customers, people who walked in with $2,000 checks, $1,000 checks, people who spent an extra 20 bucks with him and added to the pot. And he sustained this program for well over a year for us, and also doing some larger efforts at Thanksgiving and at Christmas time. So, you know, I just want to thank Jason because he did an amazing job, and also his customers for helping to see this through, because it's so important to our community, and we see it week in and week out. We are continuing this program right now. I was awarded some dollars from the city through their CARES program, and we specifically targeted food initiatives. So we have worked with the Kellen Foundation and the YMCA, who are also bringing food opportunities to the city as a whole. And we're continuing this program right now. Some of you may know Jason has closed his silk mill business and will be reopening a space in the downtown in the coming months. So we're kind of taking that over in the interim. Go ahead, Bill. So on that note of food, this is one of the first places I'm announcing this, but we are going to be opening a West Ward market this summer in the neighborhood. Going back to 12th Street, we'll be on North 12th, a weekday market. It'll be a Tuesday evening from 3 to 7. We're working with Kellen Foundation, who's already has their mobile market in the neighborhood, and hoping to expand upon that. We're working with other vendors, other crafters, other community partners that want to come to the neighborhood. So as much as this is about bringing food access into the neighborhood, it's also about bringing the community together. As I mentioned, National Night Out was such an amazing event to bring everybody together. We see this as such as well. So live music, local restaurants bringing in food so people can stay, hang out. The YMCA wants to do all kinds of programming, and I'm hoping for family kickball out on Cottingham Field. That's my wish out there. But we are really excited to bring this into the neighborhood in the evening and enjoy that. So that will happen from June through September. We will be making the big announcement very soon, but I'm sharing it here with you folks today. And we have some really great partners on board to help make this a great event, in addition to the food piece here in the neighborhood. Bill, last slide. Oh, I don't want to do it all over again.
Well, that's not the last thing is what, a PowerPoint?
Now there should be one last picture, but that's all right. It's nothing. It was just that's okay. So that's my wrap up. That's my spiel on West Ward Community Initiative. I'm happy to take any questions. That is a high level overview of the neighborhood and program.
I have a question.
Sure.
Oh, there you go.
Everybody, I'm in the area, I'm an antique. But besides that, everybody's concerned about the West Ward because of the news that it gets, like this week on Washington Street.
Yeah.
And on all around that area, all the way up to 15th, between 11th and 12th and 15th, it's not good. And it bothers me because I don't like it. You're doing a wonderful job here. and you're getting that credit. But there's other elements that are in that area. But I know you have helpers in that area, because I read about the news. But I don't like what I'm hearing. I don't like what I'm seeing. And I go by there a lot. I used to work in Wilsonboro here. And I go down Washington Street every day. And now when I do it at my leisure, I see vehicles, I see things that I don't like, particularly on Washington Street, because that's what I use. Because Hampton is fine. You don't get any problems over Hampton Street. But there, I see cars, and if I was a cop, I'd be profiling. You know what I mean? Everybody in the room knows what I mean. You see it, a black car, the windows are dark, and the license, you're not sure, you can even read it sometime. And I feel like following it, reporting it to the police. I know the police have a problem there because of profiling and things like that. But it just bothered me. I also hear bad news about Easton Middle School, which I never heard before. I don't like that either. My wife used to teach there. I'm hearing things from people that are teachers and other people there saying, I don't want my kid to go to that school. And they moved a lot of teachers in the Easton Middle School, which is now Paxton-Osa, and moved to Nazareth because they don't want their kids to go to Easton Middle School. I don't like to hear that. Why don't you stay and solve the problem? But it's just things that bother me, being, concerned about a citizen, concerned citizen. Do you hear that?
I do. Thanks for coming out with the hard-hitting question.
But I mean,
It's all easy after
it
that.
bothers me. I will say it because I don't like it.
Yeah. And I don't know that I have answers.
I know.
Yeah.
Not easy.
Yeah, we work very hard to make the neighborhood a good place, and the vast majority of people are. I could also tell you that we just did for our HUD piece, we just did a housing market study. And out of the entire city of Easton, all 4 neighborhoods, where 40% of the residents live in West Ward, only 28% of the crimes committed in the city of Easton come out of the West Ward. So unfortunately, the bad press gets the most press.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Yep. And I think we have to start to be louder about what the positives are. Paxton-Osa has been an amazing elementary school. They are by far the largest, and people want to stay at that elementary school. When there used to be, until about 2 years ago, Wood Avenue was a dividing line where some kids went to Tracy, and some parents occasionally would wind up moving over that line and then find out they weren't going to Paxton-Osa anymore. And so they wanted to be at Pax, and I think Paxton-Osa has been a great asset. Keeping the stadium in West Ward has been huge for us as well. Yeah, and I feel like it is these little incremental pieces that start to be helpful for our neighborhood. We see it as clean, safe neighborhood pride for this neighborhood, and I think that's the next step, is people wanting to live here. We want this to be a place where people choose to live, and hopefully take an interest, like you said, be part of the solution instead of part of the problem.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amy, is that your other picture?
It is.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
How big a staff do you have? You're it?
Me, and I just hired an assistant manager who's full-time. She's been there about a month now.
So all this has happened under your watch.
Yes, yeah, and through my executive director has, worked considerably to get the HUD grant with consultants. We have a steering committee as well for West Ward. Yes, so we're chugging along.
I know there's always been the efforts made and the outcry for a market in the West Ward. Is there any future for that?
As how so? Like as like a grocery store market?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we're hoping this market, this outdoor market, could help. Grocery stores are tough, especially when you have all these Lidl and Giant and Whites left about 2 miles away. And typically grocery stores look within a 5-mile radius. We also have a space problem, they want to bring in trucks, they want a lot of square footage, And that we don't have a whole lot of empty real estate in West Ward or in Easton as a whole. And so a lot of things that we've talked about, especially as we wanted to bring this open air market to West Ward, is that I don't see a grocery store happening soon. And so how can we start to solve that problem right now? Because it is a big concern. You know, other than people asking me what's going on with the Armory, I would say the next question is, when do we get a grocery store? So, you know, that's the next big piece. We've also talked about how do we get our corner markets involved in having fresh produce and a better grocery selection. And that's another big nut, because a lot of those don't have cold storage, refrigeration, and things like that. But how can we make that happen for them? Because I feel like that's the next piece. And I think them seeing the demand for a market and for fresh produce and for more grocery type options will be the next catalyst to getting folks to thinking along those lines.
You brought it up, so what's happening with the Armory?
Oh, that's gonna cost you $1. I'm starting a collection. Hopefully I can buy it. Dean, go ahead.
Amy, I was just gonna say congratulations, first of all, on getting your assistant, and also congratulate you on the great work that you've been doing.
Thank you.
The question I have is, the Secretary of HUD was just here recently to visit. So, you think we have a?
It was nice to hear. It was nice to hear that Easton was chosen.
Give
So
the bill
I will also say, so we were one of 11 cities chosen throughout the entire United States. There were about 50 applications to get this planning grant. And perhaps half of those will get the actual implementation grant. So to have the HUD secretary here was extremely encouraging. We're up against very large cities, and you know, with humongous populations, you know, all metropolitan areas. We are like one of two of a smaller city. So the competition is steep, but I'm really hopeful. I really am. Dean, what has happened over on the south side is a great blueprint for this, and I think a huge asset to Easton already.
That's one of the reasons she popped in and spent a lot of time.
Good.
You know, so hopefully.
Yes.
So last time around, Allentown Easton, when it was called both got.
Okay.
Which was pretty unheard of. That hadn't happened across the city. Because again, like, you know, as you said, across the country, you're usually looking at the neighborhoods like Trenton, East St. Louis, Philadelphia, you know, larger municipalities and cities that you should get. But you're in the mix, so congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Working hard.
Hi, oh, it was a great presentation and you are doing some tremendous work.
Thank you.
And so congratulations on that. Keep up the good work. When I think of the West Ward, I think of a food desert. So I'm glad you covered that and the questions that were added to that. So I just want to add my voice to that concern, and you know, grocery store. I know there's some small like corner markets that they don't have you know, the ability to provide fresh produce. But my primary question is not being a person who grew up here. I don't know what happens at Cottingham Stadium, why it's there, and you know what its purpose is.
Sure. So back in 1924, well, a little before that, Easton needed a new high school. At the time, it was downtown. The Governor Wolf Building was that high school. And they started looking around for a new place. They bought land over on South Side, which technically they still own. They actually looked at another space out at 14th Street as well, and they eventually landed at 12th and Northampton. That is now Paxnos Elementary School. Prior to that, I went there as a middle school, but it started as Easton Area High School. So because that was the high school, the football stadium was built across the street. There was also a baseball diamond behind it. There was an elementary school actually behind it called Vanderveer Elementary School, which is what the park is named after. I believe there were tennis courts there as well.
Yes,
So-
there were. I
Yeah,
took
they were-
tennis
were
lessons
13th
there.
Street.
All right, yeah, it's easy. So that's why the football stadium is there. And it was built in 1925 as well in a more formal way. And so all the football games have been played, home football games for Easton, even now that the high school is out at 25th Street, have still been played there.
So Easton High School, the one that we know now, plays their games at Cardinals.
Yep, yes, yeah.
And the new high school at 25th Street had enough room to move the new stadium there, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But the powers that be, so we've got to keep it downtown.
We are steeped in tradition in
Yeah.
Easton,
So-
yes.
And what's, so it underwent a renovation recently. When I
Yes.
look at a Google satellite picture, it's all dug up and construction, so they.
Not a renovation, they tore it down and built a brand new.
Right, exactly, that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened.
Yeah, so they're hosting football games there, lacrosse games are there, I hear more spring
Okay.
sports will be held there.
Yeah.
Graduation for this year's high school class will be in the
Okay.
stadium as well. Yeah,
So it gets a fair amount of use, then it's not
Yes.
just for.
up until now, it has been exclusively for JV and high school football games.
So that would
And-
be like 6, maybe a dozen events a year.
And band competitions.
And band competitions,
Band.
absolutely,
And
yeah,
graduation.
yeah, yes, now, yes. So we're
that
excited to.
tradition is strong.
Yes. I invite you to an Easton football game.
We used to have a track meets there, just the
Amy,
Yes.
we do have a few people in the room that are not native Easton people. So describe what is the boundaries for the West Ward?
Absolutely. So 6th Street to 15th Street.
Mhm.
So for those not familiar with streets, Two Rivers Brewing Company and the fire station, all the way to CBS and what was the synagogue and is now Life Church. And then going north to south, you are at the Bushkill Creek. You would come up through the cemetery, and that would take you all the way south to what we classify as Butler Street and what is called the escarpment. So then that drops down to the Lehigh River. So that is all West Ward.
You mentioned a business partner, I think you said his name was Jonathan. Would you remind me what business he was associated with? And do you guys,
Oh.
is it Jason?
Jason and Tucker.
What are your other local businesses that are supporting the efforts that you're making?
Yeah, so Jason had Tucker Silk Mill. It was a coffee shop in a, that's a cafe, I think would be a better term. It was over at the Silk Mill. He early this year, he closed it. He's gonna be opening a wine bar / roastery option in the downtown. That would be close to the Free Bridge down there. Yeah, we have partnered with a number of folks in the West Ward. We worked with pretty much every restaurant in that neighborhood when we did the meals. We're also doing more business outreach now. We're also getting more businesses interested in the West Ward. Downtown is kind of full up, so they're starting to look west. And you know, as I mentioned, we have a huge population there. So we've worked pretty much every restaurant there. New owners of Easton Baking Company, Tierra de Fuego, Black and Blue, Porter's Pub is a huge supporter of us. Kudu Creative, that has a graphic design and business there on Wood Avenue. We've worked with several of the barbershops. Paxanosa is a huge piece to us and a great partner. We're starting to work more with the cemetery. Yeah, who else? We've worked with several of the local churches as well to get involved. Two Rivers Health and Wellness, which is also in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood health centers of the Lehigh Valley, which is a federally based, federally qualified health program. There's an office in West Ward that we worked with. We specifically worked with them for some vaccine clinics at Paxanosa and making sure that folks in the neighborhood were vaccinated as well. Who else? Obviously, the Eastern Area Community Center, we've done a lot of work with them.
I'm gonna tell you, I've done it just by coincidence. I've done it twice in that area in the last 6 weeks, I would say.
Mhm.
And I thought that your idea of residents lighting up the areas was a good one.
Thank you.
It was something we noticed while we were down.
Yeah, yeah. We have streetlights, you know, that are every block, every half block, but we have a lot of trees and it doesn't get down to that pedestrian level. The city has added some really beautiful lighting along Northampton Street that has the large overhead light, but then it also has a pedestrian level light as well. So they are almost finished going all the way up to 14th Street, but yes, it needs more light as a whole. Yeah. Well,
Is anything happening with the Dunkin' Donuts on 13th and Northampton Street? It's been empty
Yes,
for a while
yes.
now.
Yeah,
Good question.
we just met the new owners yesterday. I don't know if they're leasing it or if they purchased the building, but it's gonna be a Mediterranean restaurant. Really great family, very nice. They hope to be open April 1st. So definitely a good place to check out, yeah.
What's happening with the old Jacobs Brothers?
That's gonna be another dollar step. No, I'm just kidding. And by the whole Westport. Yes, apartments are coming there. The same group of VM Development that did the Pomeroy building and Governor Wolf and then also the Silk Mill. They're actually gonna be building up, I think 2 stories. I don't think 3, I think it's 2. And I think it'll have about 50 apartments. But they're rethinking apartment sizes right now because there's so many people working from home. So they're kind of doing some reconfiguring as a whole. We're seeing that across the city. But yes, it'll be apartments and there will be 1 storefront there as well. So yeah, we hope that'll start soon. I think it'll start towards the end of this year.
You're missing your lunch, or what about the Armory? What happens about the Armory?
That's definitely $1.
That's gonna be $1?
Yeah, the Armory, yeah, the Armory.
You gotta pay $1.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do that.
I wish I had a good answer.
That's a good, I mean, it's a nice building, but it's just there forever and nothing happens.
I know, and the folks that own it have some ideas for it. I hope that they will move forward with it, because it could be really fantastic. I honestly get asked about it all the time. Yep, yeah.
How about letting Amy sit down? Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, maybe we should let Amy sit down. Amy, your presentation was great. It was good to hear about all the wonderful things you're doing in the West Ward. And I agree with James. You're doing a great job. So, we can let the questions continue while everybody eats, or are there any more questions?
Well, I'll give them a round of Kiwanis round of applause.
All right, well, maybe we can do some business quickly here. Chris, why don't you tell us what you have in front of you? I see your binders in front of you, okay? And tell us what you've done.
Well, I put together
Chris?
the proposal for next
You
year.
don't have to get into the details, but just give us an outline, and then we can talk separately later.
What do you mean by an outline, Neil?
What's that?
For the
Chris, I'll hold something up here. Chris has done a 5-year study on what we spend from our Easton Kiwanis. It looks at all the individual organizations we've given to, how much we spend each year, and this is going to be a basis for us putting together a budget for next year. So I thank you, Chris, and look forward to working with you on that. Next would be, Walt, anything new with SLPs?
Yes, last week after the meeting, I made calls to Cheston, Paxenosa, March Elementary, and the middle school, the 8th grade principal, asking if they would get back to me I want to see if there's a possibility that we can get our K-Kids and our Builders Club program back into the schools starting in the fall of 2022, no,
The next school year.
the next school year. Yeah, I'm losing it. That's it as far, I haven't heard back from any of them, but I did that last Wednesday and I'm still waiting to hear from any of the principals. Maybe things are up in the air with them as far as what they're going to allow for outside organizations. But I am gonna start going to the last 2 meetings now that they've done away with the mask mandate. Why I will be going up to the Shawnee Elementary School for the K-Kids on April 7th. And then their last meeting is going for the school year is going to be May 12th. So I plan on going to both of them.
All right, thank you, Walt. Karen, talk about Charlie's dinner.
Well, I put one more, my very last reminder out today. I think 3 is enough. And I promised everybody that I would not be handing it out and sending it out. I was in touch with Gary, so he and I have exchanged information as to who he has money from and the fact that I still have people that he doesn't have money from yet. But I'm delivering money to him this week. So if anybody still has money that they want to pay today, you can hand it over to me and I will take it. And that's really about it.
How many people do we have?
Roughly, because I don't remember, 20, 23,
Okay.
I think.
All right, thanks, Terry. Dan's not here today, but I believe she has a half a dozen volunteers for PBS 39, which is on Saturday, the 26th, I think. Correct? Sue, help me out. Sue's in the other room.
Yep, it's the Saturday. Is that what the Saturday is?
Yeah, I think so. So Saturday, the 26th, some of us are going to be volunteering there.
Mhm.
Communities and schools, we have to present the check. I'm going to contact them. Joanne has the check and I want to make some formal presentation either at one of our meetings or do it over at Paxinosa. I believe that's where they're located. Speakers, Terry, you want to mention anything about future speakers?
Well, as it happens, for those who had questions about Paxinosa, Tracy Piazza, who is one of the assistant superintendents for the school district, will be here next week in person. So if you've got Paxinosa, Easton School District questions, she'll be the person to bring it to. And I think that we're through, April's done, May's taken care of. So I think we need to start to focus on what's happening during the summer. So those people, and I will remind everybody who's got the months of June and July and August and so forth. So
Terry, I'm working on June and I have,
okay.
yeah, I have calls out to Cunningham from the Lehigh Valley Economic Organization to come talk to us. And a call out to a professor at Lafayette on to follow up on a recent article in the Washington Post on boys are failing, to hear what they might have to say from their gender studies program. And then I have somebody lined up from the League of Women Voters to talk to us about issues related to voting and being prepared for the fall elections. They're all out there and the balls are in the air, and I haven't gotten the commitments back for specific dates, but that's the outline of where we are so far.
Great, thanks, Ken.
Anything else we need to discuss as a club? Skip? Oh, yeah, I know what you're going to talk about. Go ahead, Skip.
Yeah, Neil and I are on the nomination committee for our club officers. And we're looking for anybody that would like to volunteer or be nominated for the position of president-elect. James will be our president next year. And Terry will be our vice president. But we still are looking for somebody to, in the succession of our club officers, look for somebody that's interested in succeeding James as president. So if anybody is interested, either contact me or Neil. And also anybody that's interested in serving on our board.
I'll tell you what, I'll swap my secretary position for a board position.
Denied.
One of the things that
Even though we have two members that are up for being reappointed, and I hope they'll accept their reappointment to the board, there's no limit on the number of members that can be on the board. So if anybody is interested on being a board member, either against either myself or Neil. Thanks.
Yeah, and in light of what Bill said too, we are looking at ways to relieve some of Bill's duties as secretary. There's things that I know Terry and Sue are starting to do. So we're in the long run looking for an assistant secretary, I guess. So that position is open, correct, Bill?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so assistant secretary is open. So we're looking for volunteers.
James has his hand up.
James?
He just volunteered?
Yeah, he volunteered for something. He put his hand up.
So I just wanted to mention real quick an update on the Easton Area Opioid Awareness Task Force. But I see that we have Hope with us today from Jamaica, and I don't think she's been recognized yet. So.
Oh, he's got it on the agenda. We've chatted back and forth.
Oh, okay.
Neil and I
wanted to say hi, Hope. Welcome. It's so good to see you.
Hi.
Hi, good to be here.
Yeah.
We're over here in the corner. But great to see you. So for the update on the opioid awareness task force, there is no update.
Oh, yes, you did. Did you go?
And but Bill Tonkin is in Florida this month. He's still working on his video. He's got some interviews with parents who lost loved ones, usually children, who died of an opioid overdose. And he'll be conducting those interviews and working on getting that video out upon his return later this month. We are trying to figure out how to set re-engage and you know just about how do we go about re-engaging with regular meetings of the task force. So stay tuned for that.
Okay.
Hope, do you have anything for us today?
What?
Hope?
Hope?
Do you have anything else today?
Well, just to say it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But I really enjoy your meetings, and I hope to visit you in person one day. And I hope it will be this year.
That would be great. Well, we hope to see you more even on Zoom. Bill, I have to tell you that it improves every week. I mean, I can sit here and I can see the whole room when I go to speaker view. And I hope everybody there can hear me. Ken, are you okay with the audio this week?
That's very good.
Okay, so you're getting better every week, Bill.
Well, I found out the problem today, but the PowerPoint program opened up in a presentation view when you're hooked to a second screen, and it just never wanted to go into the Zoom program. So I said, I knew you had the pictures there, so let me just do the pictures one at a time.
Neil, you had that hand up the last moment or two.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to, Janet, do you want to say something about Read Across PA?
I didn't know if Neil wanted to say anything or not.
Oh, no, go ahead. Neil doesn't know everything, okay?
Okay, really? All right, no, we had Read Across PA.
Yeah, did I say that?
Yeah, it started at the beginning of the week, but we also, Easton Kiwanis members that got together yesterday and read to Forks Educational Center and Third Street Alliance. So Sue and Terry went to Third Street Alliance, and you might share how did that go, and did you have large classrooms or?
We did 2 pre-K counts classrooms.
Okay.
And for me, it was like old home week because practically everybody I taught over the years is there. Sue, poor thing, she's kind of standing on the periphery listening to all the stories that went on and on and on about everybody's kid and whatever. But I can speak for myself. We had 2 wonderfully beautiful groups of children. And we were more than welcome. And they thanked the club for the books that we donated. Then each group, the teachers got to pick. One of the teachers specifically had a book that she wanted, and we got that one. Then the other one, based on the theme of spring, she wanted a book on that, and we were able to get her an award-winning book on spring. And it fit right into her theme for the month. So it was a very nice time. Sue, do you have anything you want to say?
No, it was great. And Janet, the Facebook article was really nice too.
We had James doing his, he read one of the stories that was selected by the teacher, but he also read Where Airplanes Go, was at night to sleep, where airplanes go to sleep. So that brought back old memories. And Walt, he was there for us, and you.
I read to the one class. They were both preschoolers. I read to one class a book called How to Get Lost in New York City, or How I Got Lost. The second one was Spring is Coming, talking about planting seeds and so forth like that, getting out of winter and coming into spring. That was with the other class. It was like herding cats.
And Rosemary.
And I read in the same 2 classes that Walt read to. We just switched. So I read Pete the Cat.
So I would hope, Janet, you girls get together and write a story and submit it with some pictures to the Keystone Kiwanis. And somebody before the end of the month, let me know who all was there and how many hours they spent. And how many kids they touched in the story.
I did request that information from Jim and Terry, so I will pass that on when they get it to me. But we had a great time. The classrooms were very well organized. I must say that as somebody that went into classrooms and actually did that kind of a thing, the classrooms were well organized. The director is still being pulled in too many different directions. The classrooms are still too small. I mean, like the amount of children, you can tell that they've downsized. So, and it has to do, she lost another teacher, so she's, it's a lot of, they're still going through it. It's not over yet for the childcare and education area. So anyway, please support as much as you can, but they appreciated the book. So thank you so much for doing it, everybody.
It's such a thrill to be there with those kids. I mean, as someone who's not an educator and who hasn't been around kids a lot in my life, to be there in the midst of these 4-year-olds and they're looking up to you and they're with, just excitement in their eyes and they're so thrilled that you're there. And it's really nice. Janet said it brought back some memories, and the memories that it brought back was, so you know me at the end of my career where, it was a very successful career, and I was a, big big airplane pilot. Well, the memories it brought back was sleeping in a cot in the back of a hangar next to the airplane was sleeping at night. And we do this back 30 odd years ago, waiting to, move my way up the chain. It was a lot of fun with those kids.
And I had a special request from Janet. She had a young man in one of her classes whose father was a Pennsylvania state trooper, and he indicated he wanted to be a police officer. So I got taken into that classroom and surrounded by a couple of young men who decided they wanted to hear about my police career.
So nice.
One other thing that I omitted again, Joanne, would you like to talk about the super raffle?
Well, we're going to, I think, Bill, it's today we're going out to Gary's.
I got everything. I'll talk to you
Yeah.
afterwards. We're ready. Joanne is going to go up to the courthouse this afternoon after she sees Gary for the checks. And hopefully by the end of the day, we'll have our county license.
Yeah.
And
So you
then-
decided on the place?
Yeah.
Well, it's Pomfret Club.
Pomfret Club.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
going to the Pomfret Club, June 15th. The cost will be, I think Joanne and I have chatted about this. The cost will be $23 if you purchase the lunch when you buy your raffle ticket. If you wait to do it later, it will be $28 because we have to give them a head count. So we're giving you a bit of a discount if you commit to it up front or by a certain cutoff date. We haven't decided those exact things. That'll be on the tickets. But there's an incentive for you to pay for your meal. We're really not looking for walk-in meals because the Pomfret Club wants us to give them a count. And if we have 5 or 6 people walking in that we don't know are coming, there might not be food for them. That's what we're learning to live with these days with restaurants and things. We're very fortunate here. Joanne and I'll talk after the meeting, but she has to go out and get the check and one more form from Gary. I now have digital copies of everything. I actually created the application for the county license this year. It's in my file. We'll be able to pass it along to anybody digitally in the future. Gary is so swamped as an accountant right now. He's a one-armed paper hanger with no fingers. If you know anybody that's looking for a part-time job that has some accounting background, he would love to talk to someone to come in and help him.
Chris?
Well, I spoke to Gary and my opinion was that he's given so much time to Kiwanis over the last 20 some odd years that I volunteered to go in gratis for a couple of days. And I think it might not be a bad idea if the club got together and maybe some time also.
Well, what his biggest concern is, I was talking to him, his biggest concern is he needs someone that can come in with a background. He hasn't got time to teach them. So if you know anybody that's got some tax background, retired person, looking for a couple of hours.
Neil, it's Joanne.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The grant request form, the new one you gave me for the communities and schools of Eastern Pennsylvania, the amount on here is $3,200. Something tells me that was not approved for that amount of money.
No, it's 1,200.
That's what I want to find out because the grant says 32.
So they asked for 32 for the whole year, and we decided it was going to be 800 and 400.
Right.
The balance of this year and one summer class, 1,200.
1,200? Are you sure? Because
Yes.
Positively.
okay.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It sounds right.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Once I make out this check.
Yeah. That will do.
Okay, Jim, I'll give you this check before you leave.
Okay.
Because then he can pick it up from you, all right?
Right.
Okay, another thing is probably at the beginning of next month, I would like to take some time to go over the ticket. Okay, so that you understand it. So when you're out selling, you know exactly what to talk to the customer that you're trying to get money, for the ticket. Because there are certain things, there's certain prizes and the way that we do it. So I will kind of illustrate everything. So it'll make it easier for the new people coming in because it gets to be a little technical. We have some people that go in groups.
Well, we can't have a group name on a check. We have to have one person that's going to be responsible for it. For instance, I'd say $20, $20. Well, we have 5 people, but we only need one name. So I'm going to go over some of these details. Soon as we get the actual tickets, we'll give you the actual ticket in front of you so that once we go through number of prizes, when they came up, when they came up on the boards, and you can ask questions, okay? Make it easier.
Everything's the same as before though. It's
Yes,
right.
for the oldies, you all know, yeah.
Well, we're gonna have a cutoff. We're gonna have a cutoff date. The tickets and money, tickets and money have to be in 5 days before the draw.
So that's June 15th, right?
The drawing is the 15th.
I knew there was, so it has to be by June 10th.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's actually, we're gonna be, Janet and I are just gonna be fresh back from the international convention in Indianapolis.
Oh, you can take some tickets with you and sell them out there.
Is anybody else going?
Walt?
So he said $1,200.
I
I knew this was.
I don't have any plans yet. I might tentatively, I'm going.
Anybody have anything else for Neil?
Anything else? Because I'm watching you eat for the last, hour. I'm getting hungry.
Walt,
Go ahead, Walt. Yeah, go ahead, Walt. I'm okay yet.
Okay, well, Neil and Sue, you both know about this. This is going to be a brief comment about the Police Officer of the Year award meeting that we had on Monday afternoon. It's going to be at the Pomfret Club, and the fee is going to be $23. I'm hoping that that something will be put out so that the people that want to attend that from our club can call me. If I don't happen to be home, they can leave a message on my voicemail. I will keep track of that. I'm also going to be collecting the $23. That meal is going to be $23 also, and I will be collecting the money for that and have it handy. And then I can give the Pomfret Club a number of people, because I've also spoken to the administrative assistant yesterday down at the police department. She's going to keep track of the police officers and the other people that get invited by the police department. She's also going to be collecting the money from them. This way, none of the politicians are going to show up with empty pockets. And
all right. I guess,
this year, I think I mentioned it once before, but it turns out that there's only going to be one person recognized this year. That's going to be the officer that they picked for this year. The chief had talked to the other 2 officers, and they decided that they didn't necessarily have to be publicly recognized. I'm a little disheartened at that, but that's the way it is.
All right. Thank you, Walt. I guess one of the things I'm taking away from this meeting, and if you sit and listen to everything that's going on with this club, we could use new members. So I would challenge everybody to continue to look for new members to sign up. And as Bill would say, we need new verbs to continue doing our work. But we're probably busier than ever right now. And I appreciate what everybody does to get our name out in the community. And PBS 39 is another chance for us to be out there. So we hope that's a good event for us.
And we need a singing game too.
Let somebody else start the singing, because I'm over here doing the technical parts.
Okay, that's all I have. It looks like everybody's done and probably ready to go. So I am going to sign out. Thanks again, Bill. I think this really works, and I hope the other people online appreciate it, and I hope to see everybody in person next Wednesday, same time, same place. And good seeing you again, Hope.